Hello and welcome to another episode of Tai'Shar Manethrin, a Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Will.
And I'm Sam.
And today we are going off topic. We're going to be chatting about various things, whatever we feel like we want to.
Will, I feel the need to set the record straight at the outset of this off-topic episode.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, in our previous off-topic episode, we did not talk about a certain television program on Amazon Prime. And I just want to say, before we get into it, I think that says it all, doesn't it, really? We didn't even it didn't even make enough of an impact. And to be fair, it had been long enough. But
it had been
a while, but it just fell right out of pop culture.
It's funny because I thoroughly enjoyed it while it was going on. And
I kind of was back and forth, but yeah. Please.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still in a space of, I'm curious because it sounds like I enjoyed it more than you, but
yeah, I think so. And just to be clear to everyone, we're talking about Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings television show on Amazon.
Yes.
And because in the last off topic, we're like, maybe there was something else we were going to talk about. And then the next day texted Will, I was like, we didn't talk about Lord of the Rings.
I was like, how did we not talk about the Lord of the Rings show last month?
It's like jabbering on about hot ones on YouTube. This major fantasy show comes out and we just neglect it anyway.
Yeah. So. It sounds like you were a little lukewarm on it.
I was. I don't know, man. I don't know if I expected more or less. From the beginning, I was like, I really hope the strange. Oh, wait, I guess should we say spoilers?
Spoilers for the whole first
spoilers
season.
For the first season of Rings of Power. We have to. To be able to talk about this.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't want the stranger to be Gandalf. From the very beginning, I was like, this just seems too on the nose. And so that was disappointing to me a little bit. Like, can't we just be some other wizard? Is there no other wizards?
Right.
There totally are. And that's the kind of is like the timeline being kind of screwed up. The fact that it just feels to me a little bit like they didn't, correct me if I'm wrong here. They didn't quite get the rights to just remake the movies, right? Like they had to do something different.
They don't have the Silmarillion, which is part of the reason why this is a little more.
It's like fan fiction, man.
Yeah, it's definitely homebrewed. More. I mean, this is the segment of time that we have the least from Tolkien himself about.
Yeah.
Which is
for some reason I thought it was. I was thinking it was going to be more like in the Silmarillion era. For some reason, I don't know why I thought that. I didn't have any reason to think that, but yeah, just like, these are. We're just getting all these characters we know, and that's fine, I guess. And and it's like, I don't know. Just so many beats. It felt like we're trying to make a TV show version of the movies. Like let's have a female Frodo, and that's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wasn't buying what they were selling, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. The main thing you're saying is that there was nothing really original there.
Yeah, exactly.
That I think is largely fair.
I liked Galadriel. I didn't mind her. She was very intense, and that was okay. But yeah, I wanted a new story. I wanted something totally different. Rather than where in the world is Sauron?
Yeah, we all were waiting for hot Sauron to show up.
Right.
The whole time. There were several things that I liked about it that I think anything that I might have otherwise been bothered by, because they got the handful of things. One of them is production design. Mm-hmm. In general, I thought was pretty great.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. And that to me was one of the things I love the most about Peter Jackson films, is how much the props and costumes and sets made it feel like a real place. And when I'm talking about the Peter Jackson films, I am talking about Lord of the Rings,
original,
not the Hobbit. But yeah, I think although Megan would point out every time that some of the soldiers were just wearing shirts with prints on them to look like chainmail or whatever.
Like, come on, guys, you dropped $1 billion on this. Like,
right.
That's what I kept thinking. Like, is this what $1 billion buys? Like,
that's exactly what she just said out loud just now. Yeah, there is a funny thing there where you're like, yeah, what does $1 billion look like? Mm-hmm. Because I think I heard somewhere that in Infinity War and Endgame together cost $1 billion. And
that checks out. Like, okay, yeah.
Like, and you think about that, and that's like, 5 or 6 hours total. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in there.
Suitably epic. Yep.
Yeah. And then, versus like this is not quite twice that, but it is like at least 50% more of that runtime. And so you're having to stretch that out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And, there's a handful of moments where it does feel like smaller scale than like the Lord of the Rings movies, mm-hmm. In a notable way. But then to me, there are enough big moments. I've always said I'm a sucker for scale, and when they come into Numenor, for example, to me, that was one of those moments I felt like they hit it right.
Yeah. I would say this show, maybe by and large, did scale better than the Wheel of Time show. I mean, we have to do some comparisons here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I mean, when I'm looking at this and I'm going, like, to me, this succeeds overall in a way that I feel like Wheel of Time really didn't.
I would say both shows, as a full postmortem, as we're far enough away from both of them disappointed me. I mean, like, just full stop. Like, there were moments I enjoyed them. There were moments I thought they were good, but they disappointed.
Well, and here may be a key. And you may have been the same way. I don't know. I had beyond low expectations for the Rings of Power.
I didn't even watch it at first. Like, I waited a few episodes. Like, I don't know if I want to even do this. Like, and yeah, so I'm with you on that for sure.
Whereas I wouldn't say like I had super high expectations for the Wheel of Time. I think I had very appropriate expectations.
Yeah.
And so whereas the Wheel of Time did not live up to my expectations.
Right. The low expectations you had for Lord of the Rings of Power were
I'd say
exceeded maybe.
Yeah, greatly. I would say.
Yeah, I get that.
I think the dialogue was better in the Rings of Power.
I think there are moments I would agree with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit burned out on this type of television. I don't know. Like, I think that's completely valid. I think like The Witcher had such better dialogue than either show, even though it was ridiculous at times.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, The Witcher is kind of in this little funny genre that, like, I really liked the Honest Trailer take on it, where it was almost like this is more of a like modern take on like the Xena and Hercules TV shows.
That's a good comparison.
And like, because there is,
it's not as tied to all the high fantasy tropes.
Exactly. And there's a borderline silliness almost, not like really, but and it's hard to explain because it's like
kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the audience.
Yeah.
Subtly.
Yeah. Right. Because some of the dialogue is ridiculous.
Right. But you give it more of a pass. Like, whereas something like Rings of Power is trying to be really earnest.
Right. Exactly.
And so the bar is higher. If you're going to go for earnest, you have to really stick the landing.
Exactly.
And if you don't, then it's awkward.
I was talking about this with a friend of mine this past week, just how like, I love really absurdist comedy and different things. I can get down on that, and I don't dislike realistic dramas. But what I've realized about myself is part of the reason why I have a harder time with them is because I am watching it with less of a suspension of disbelief than I am like something that is a little bit more genre, something that is a little more comedy. I'm going to be more forgiving because it seems more self-aware. Yeah. Whereas
it's not trying to take itself very seriously.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really good way to think about it. I think I've had the same impulse and I've never articulated it quite like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I think you can take it or leave it, but honestly, that is a little bit of the secret of Marvel's success.
Yeah.
Because it it knows when to take itself seriously, and it knows when to let off the gas and go, wink, nod.
Yeah, She-Hulk.
Yes.
Well, I mean, because She-Hulk, of course, as a character, is known for addressing the audience, breaking the fourth wall, and so they lean into it. And that's not for everyone. I mean, going to that extreme.
Oh yeah, sure.
But I love it. I think that's a really good point.
I'm totally. I really enjoyed She-Hulk. It's funny because like people's reactions to that were so varied.
They were.
You had. I don't know. I guess it's just polarizing. There are some people that like they don't
expecting to see Hulk in the title. They're like, this is not what I would have thought Hulk would be. Right. They don't know what it is.
Plus, I mean, some people just don't like meta humor, which is something I can't understand as a person
who
loves meta humor.
I'm the same. Yeah, it's like what are we doing here? Yeah, like they don't see the point of it.
Right. And I love that kind of snake eating his tail kind of stuff.
Me too.
Then I mean, like once something, I enjoy watching things that know what they are, that are self-aware, and meta humor is like the height of that to me.
It is
when you're able to make fun of your own formula. That's always fun to me. I mean, like honestly, it's why Phineas and Ferb was so hilarious to me. Is because they established their kind of episodic formula, and then they would turn it inside out and make fun of it and do different ridiculous things with it. No, you're not supposed to say that. Oh, there you are, Perry. Anyway,
we watched The Burbs last night. Tom Hanks. Did you ever see that?
No.
It's made in 1989 with Carrie Fisher. It's like so weird to see Carrie Fisher like a decade older playing this like suburban mom. It terrified me as a child, and it's sort of horror comedy. It's on Netflix, and it is like that. It's just this wacky, zany horror comedy, like the neighbors that moved in we think are ex murderers kind of thing. And it's like this is the height of 80s absurd humor, and also the dream sequence where Tom Hanks is being ritual sacrificed on like a giant gas grill, like just, and also stretching the bounds of what can be PG. Like sometimes I looked at Rachel like this was 1989 PG, like PG-13. There was a very different standard back then.
I love talking about that topic because it's one of these things where every now and then people will say, well, these days PG-13 is practically R. And I'm like,
no, it's the opposite.
The other, it actually, if you actually look at it objectively, the opposite is very much true. PG-13 has softened way beyond what PG even was.
It's like they realized they wanted to get as far away from R as possible because movie makers realized that R was in many cases the kiss of death when you're trying to make money on a movie.
Oh yeah.
So they're like, no, I mean, unless you're something like Deadpool, you're not gonna make money if you're R. Like, it's not gonna work out.
It's interesting because like we in our lifetime have seen a lot of R-rated like very popular movies, and it's funny because they seem to go back and forth because after Deadpool, there was like, I feel like this period of time where it was like, oh, so we got to make like R-rated comic book movies, right? It was like, some executives were saying
like, well, this is the formula. We need to do more of that.
But it was like, no. It was good because it was Deadpool, not because it was R-rated.
Not because there was violence and all that other stuff.
It worked because of that character. Yeah,
exactly.
No, there's actually a great YouTube video. I may have actually brought this up before because called What Happened to PG-13.
Oh, no. Okay.
And this guy rolls out several examples of here's what PG looked like in the 80s. And it's the example I always give is the original Planet of the Apes was G, rated G.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Right? Like a guy gets shot through the neck in it, and another guy gets like lobotomized. I mean, you off screen, but you see him with the patch in his head.
There aren't many movies that actually get G anymore. I feel like everything is PG. Like even your average Disney movie is PG.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's. I mean, basically now G means like nothing happens in this movie. Like staring at a cactus for 2 hours.
Right. It better not be a suggestively shaped cactus or something. Right. PG.
Yes, it's a very androgynous cactus. Actually, Androgynous Cactus was the name of the cover band I was part of.
Well
briefly.
Played. Well played.
Speaking of horror, Megan and I went to go see Megan.
Okay. All right. What'd you think?
Yeah, we enjoyed it. I had heard good things, but I enjoyed it more as a film that had some stuff to say than I expected. It's not just a schlocky Chucky knockoff, even though it arguably is that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's much more than that. I didn't realize until we went to see the movie that it's supposed to be stylized with the E as a 3, but the way that it's printed on the posters, it's like 3 lines. So
it just looks like an E.
Yeah, Megan stands for it was something 3rd gen. And
I see.
It was like M3 Gen, and so it looked like Megan.
Okay.
Like a lot of horror movies, there's plenty of times where you can look at it and go like, but why? Or why didn't they just what? I mean, all horror movies involve people, usually several people, being stupid.
That's a requirement. Yep.
Yeah, you can't have people being smart, otherwise the horror wouldn't happen.
Yep.
If you've seen the preview, you've basically seen the movie. There's not a lot of surprises when it comes to the horror aspects of it.
I get annoyed by Netflix whenever you start to see the preview, and they will show you almost every exciting moment in a movie for a Netflix movie. We just watched the movie, so that was 5 minutes of my time. I won't get back. I'm not gonna watch the movie now.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, but I will say that in spite of that, you get the gist of the horror story, but the thing that you don't get in the preview that I think makes this very unique is that there's actually a lot of commentary about the nature of our dependence on technology, and not just there's lots of movies that do that, but specifically emotional dependence on technology.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
And that's the thing that is kind of an interesting. If you've seen the previews, then you know the basic plot is this girl has just lost her parents. She goes to live with her aunt. Her aunt is a robotics expert working for a toy company. She's developed this robotic doll, Megan, and assigns the doll to pair with her niece and tells her to make sure that no harm, emotional or physical, comes to her. So it's what could possibly go wrong with that, right?
You need Asimov's 3 laws of robotics here, real bad.
Yes, exactly. Well, and then iRobot explored what's happens logically because of Asimov's laws.
Right.
Eventually. And I mean, essentially that's kind of what plays out here. Anyway, so but what's more interesting than just the little girl robot going on a killing spree is this discussion around how essentially the aunt character has developed this technology to kind of abdicate her responsibility as now the girl's parent.
Ooh, ouch!
Right?
That is pointed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sit your kid in front of the TV or iPad or etc.
Yep, you're getting it. That's really when she, for a brief period, shuts down Megan for a little bit. The reaction that the girl has is a tantrum that, I think any parent, aunt or uncle that has been around when a kid has had their iPad or iPhone
screen turned off,
whatever. I mean, it's a tantrum based off of this kind of over reliance on needing that fix, and then even the way she talks about wanting to see Megan, it's like a junkie wanting just another hit, man.
Wow, that's good.
There's actually a counselor that is checking in on Katie, the girl in it, and she brings up attachment theory, which I was saying afterwards. I think I've heard people talk about attachment theory in reference to just all of us with our phones, the way that we have become emotionally invested to, feel most comfortable when we have our phones within arm's reach.
Man, that is real. I've been trying for the last 6 months to just not have my phone even in the bedroom at night. And man, at first that was a very uncomfortable feeling. Like, what if I miss a text? What if I miss a phone call? What if I miss an important email? What if I just can't scroll Reddit for an hour?
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, the attachment is real and it is rampant.
Apparently the screenwriter was a young woman and it was her first screenplay to get produced.
Oh, it sounds like it's way more clever than it has any right to be as a
absolutely.
Chucky knockoff.
Oh, exactly. Like my Megan was telling me that there was a screenshot, whether it was real or not, of Chucky, the account on Twitter or something, saying something about, you can't, congratulations to Megan on a great opening weekend, but you can't be the original or something like that. And that the Megan account tweeted, "Okay, boomer."
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Which I'm like, you know what? I wasn't a big fan of Chucky anyway. It's just
same,
slasher doll. This actually has something to say. This is like, that's great. To me, I didn't like horror growing up because I thought it was just this lame slashy, stabby thing.
And it often was.
Yeah, there weren't good horror movies coming out when we were kids.
Yeah.
And like, whereas this actually, there have been so many good horror movies in like just the last 5 years. The Get Out, A Quiet Place, It Follows.
I was going to say It Follows. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of those have something to say about a real human issue. And that to me is really what horror can do in a way. It brings down like, these...
Black Mirror's like that at times.
Oh, so yeah.
So at times it's a little too much. It's unpleasant and I don't want to watch it sometimes. This is very Black Mirror-ish in kind of its tone, but more horror, clearly horror than just like... Black Mirror is just downright unpleasant. Often, like, man, I don't enjoy this. Like, I respect what you're doing and you may have a good message, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. I would never have planned to watch that movie, but now I definitely want to. So it's cool.
Yeah, you get a little bit of the stereotypical horror, but the thing I was saying was there was only one person that reacted to the creepy robot doll the way that real people would. And and it was like a half moment where one random character is like, "Oh my God," like that's the way real people would react.
This is not a product that would sell on the market for anyone other than like, I don't know, someone who wants to use it for target practice.
Yeah, exactly. like who on earth would actually
shotgun blast
be like,
head.
Let's put a robot in my kid's bedroom, and that looks kind of terrifying, just the way she is normally.
Yeah, that's the other thing about Chucky. Like, who is buying this doll? It's terrifying looking.
Yeah, especially the one that is possessed by Brad Dourif. The voice of Chucky is a guy that played Wormtongue in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. He's not actually British or anything. He's like from Boston or something. Yeah,
that's so weird.
Go figure, right?
This but this talk about attachment to technology got me thinking. Have you experimented much with ChatGPT?
Oh, I haven't even, dude. I haven't, but yeah, I've thought about it.
You're familiar, of course, with you've read the headlines. Definitely, I've spent a lot of time talking to ChatGPT because when this landed, it was a bit of a nuclear bomb in my industry, or at least to some people. It was like there was threads of people just dooming like FUD majorly, like this is gonna, like I'm sad because now our profession is over. This robot, this program is going to write all the code. There's not going to be any more need for software developers, which is completely patently false. In 20 or 30 years, maybe, but that Joker, it makes some major errors. And I have literally given him code, asked him a question about it, and he's given me a completely wrong answer. Other times he's given me some good stuff, but it is the thing about it to me that's interesting is that, I'm not assuming any knowledge or lack of knowledge. This is this large language model. Literally what it is doing, it is taking everything it's been trained on, which is up to September 2021, and it is predicting the next token, the next word. Given a prompt, it is like, here is its best guess at words that would look right, but it doesn't understand anything. And that's always been true of AI, but this one is like, it's just scarily right sounding. And it's really good if you say, the classic, write a Shakespearean sonnet in the voice of Faulkner or whatever, and it will do that, and it will be really interesting. But then when you I literally the other day I asked it something I would Google. So I was like, how do I get the recipe for whatever it was, spicy eel in Stardew Valley? And it gave me an answer that looked right. It was like, well, you need to go to Linus, and you need to give him gifts to get to his, and he'll give it to you. And I looked it up, and it was totally wrong. But it was said in this confident, specific way that was almost worse. And I think they're working on that. But it is this... Microsoft has invested $1 billion in them, and they're talking about integrating it with Bing. And you can see there being a use case, because so often search engines have become this thing, this all-encompassing thing where you ask questions that you're not just like looking for websites, you're asking Google a question.
Right.
And if they can fix the factual inaccuracy problem, you can see how something like this, and since then there have been several other AIs that have come out. And I think that my prediction is that AI is going to be the new crypto bro thing for the next few years. Like these unicorn startups in Silicon Valley are going to all be plastering AI all over their names and all over their mission statements. Like, Long Island blockchain a couple of years ago. Yeah. And so I think it's a bit of Sturm und Drang right now. It is interesting, and it is a tectonic shift in kind of the landscape, and not just this one, also the Stable Diffusion, all those, Midjourney, the image ones. There are audio ones. There's a couple different DALL-E, and so it's interesting, but it isn't. And I think Google even came out and said, Code Red, we feel like this is a threat to our business model, and it is to a degree, but it isn't also. Like, it's just the technology appears to be better than it really is to some degree.
Right.
But I think that it will, over the next few years, it just got me thinking about this when we were talking about that movie, is that it will change our relationship with technology even more. Like, the tendency will be to become even more dependent on it, and to be even more, you'll have these AIs will become kind of, they'll be everywhere, in your toothbrush, quote unquote, maybe not. It won't be clear at all when you read something on the internet if someone wrote it.
Right.
I gave this link to a buddy of mine who does social media for nonprofit, and he posted a couple of articles where he gave a prompt to ChatGPT, and it gave him back a competent article about something to do with homeless folks, say.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I wouldn't have known it was, ChatGPT. And there have been people who've been writing code to try to detect that that an AI wrote something. But it's just gonna be different. I don't know. It's a interesting area.
Yeah, but we were in college over 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I can remember my sophomore year, my sociology professor pulled up a website where a couple of guys had coded a technical paper generator.
Mm-hmm.
And you put in the names of who you wanted to be the author, and then it would just randomly generate a 30-page document that looked like an engineering paper. And what was funny was they submitted it and got it published somewhere.
Somebody just this looks right. This looks like it could be.
And so my professor, awesome. I don't know if he chose me because I was just first on the roll or whatever, but was put mine and his name into it and printed one out, and he handed it to me at the beginning of class.
Oh my gosh.
That made it look like we had written this engineering paper, and I read it, and it's complete nonsense. And if you know it's nonsense, it's easy to recognize. Yeah. But if you didn't, and you weren't confident in the language being used,
you'd be like, sure, that sounds right to me.
Yeah, that could totally be a thing.
So I know that's that has been possible for a while, and that will continue to be a problem. The difference here is that this especially this particular Chat GPT, they've been people have shown it could pass the bar just by asking it questions and grading its answers. It could maybe pass an AP computer science course. It might not get an A+, but it could pass. It could compete in some of these programming challenges against real people and not win, but not do terrible.
No, I saw a video of a lawyer talking about how really he thinks the people that need to be most concerned. It's funny that, you're talking about coding. He thinks lawyers.
Oh yeah,
and accountants.
100% lawyers. Yeah,
lawyers and accountants.
Yeah, that's anything that is repeatable, or is that is just a document together in a specific way. Crossing your I's and dotting the T's. Yeah, so to speak.
And so he's saying we're going to move back to a place back to blue collar, not totally, but. Because we're always going to need people to maintain stuff. For one thing, I actually don't believe that we're ever going to achieve robot sentience or artificial sentience. I
mentioned Carmack, maybe in the last episode, John Carmack, the Doom guy. He just got $20 million in funding, and he didn't need it. He's rich, but he just kind of said he wanted to get someone else's money to force him. There's a really good interview with him by Lex Friedman. I love one of the best interviews I've heard on Lex Friedman's podcast. But his stated goal, he started a new company, Keen Software, Commander Keen. His goal is AGI, artificial general intelligence. He's I'm going to take a shot at it while I still have a brain before I get too old. If anyone has he's sort of if anyone has a shot, I think I have a shot. And he's he really believes that, we just have to have that flash of insight. The technology's there. It's just the right combination. But yeah,
I think we'll get something that feels like you're talking to a person.
Yeah. Well, and ChatGPT is there. It's at times it does. It's man, this thing really is responding in a way like a person would, but it's just dumbly reading tokens. It's just trying to guess the next token based on, this huge database of information and previous guesses. It's training, but yeah, it's not really thinking. It's not really a person.
Right. And that's the thing that I'm doubtful of.
And it's at some point, what's the difference? Does it matter almost?
Right.
But it is a fair point.
For the purpose I don't understand people that would want to make that a goal anyway.
Yeah, that's a fair question. And it's I guess maybe to some degree it's the history books kind of thing, just to see if it can be done. Carmack made his money on Doom. He's doing his quote unquote gentleman scientist thing. And I think it's just he really takes a kind of optimistic view on it. This could be good for humanity and we could do it right. And, all the doom and gloom around people talking about artificial super intelligence is nonsense and it will never be a problem. And that's probably optimistic.
There's a degree to which I think he and I are on the same level there, where I've heard other people say you don't have to worry about AI taking over the world. What you have to worry about is people using AI to do nefarious things. And
for sure.
That's where I think when you're talking about, and I think to some degree you're already seeing that in the way that we're on a large scale, the way that just ads are being used.
Yeah.
More or less. Well, anyway, we can get into it and it could start sounding a little more political than I want to go.
I think it's funny, every time I was talking to my coworkers about how could we use AI? And every time we would come up with a use case, I'm but we could do that without AI too. We could do that with just a regular program. And so it's funny how many things, how far you can get, how advanced, how complex you can make a system without something even remotely like AI. But now, of course, we're going to look to everyone. The thing is going to be for the next few years. I'm pretty confident in this, that every company is going to be trying to staple AI onto things.
Oh, well, I feel like that's already the case. I saw one.
I think it's going to be supercharged. Where before it was we're going to make remake DNS and blockchain or whatever. I think Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX has pretty much. I'm sorry if there's any crypto lovers out there. I think crypto is done. Maybe Bitcoin will hang on, Ethereum, but I think for the vast majority, we're in crypto winter. It's the end of the cryptocurrency boom.
I sure hope so.
It's going to be AI all in now, and everybody's going to be throwing money at AI
it's
in a
been
way
nothing
that they
but
haven't.
it's nothing but bad for the economy.
Yeah. Oh man, agreed. Yeah, agreed. At least like with AI, like there's still a question of like, okay, how is this really going to be useful? But to me at least, it's a little more obvious. It's a little more clear what the use cases could be than for cryptocurrency, where it's like, you guys are just trying to get rich, aren't you?
No, I saw
that was 100% the case.
I think it was like a TikTok of this woman who's coding, and she was writing the headline explanation of what her code did. And at first it said, we used a recursive algorithm to yada, yada, yada. And then it's like the next shot is like PR comes in, backspaces recursive algorithm, writes in artificial intelligence or machine learning, one of these buzzwords,
right.
And it's, well, I predict you're right. And I also predict that the people that are coding this stuff are going to hate it. They're going to hate that it's all being reduced to artificial intelligence, because that takes the emphasis off of the brilliance it takes to create these complex algorithms.
Yeah, it's funny. You look at what they did, they've written up what they did, and they've taken sort of existing, somewhat boring technology, and they've just combined it in a new way. And the scale at which the quote unquote number of labels, it's the scale, the amount of computation they're able to do is where the magic has started to happen. Really, in a lot of ways, they're building on this foundation of decades of research. They're doing incredible work, but people do want to just hand wave, oh, magic, it's AI, it's magic. But no, man, it's these guys working hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And right now it's free. And Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company who put out this ChatGPT, was like, and it is eye-wateringly expensive. So sooner or later, we're going to have to start charging for it.
Wow.
But right now, they're just got that VC money. They have Microsoft money, actually. Some of that sweet Microsoft money.
Is there anything else that...
Yeah, we sort of veered off topic there. No,
well,
I enjoy it.
It's off topic. I mean, we can go anywhere.
No, I didn't want to talk about much else. My kids have been into Pokemon Go lately, which is taking me back to 2016.
Yeah.
It's nice. It gets them out walking and,
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to go to the playground and we'll catch some Pokemon. And
No, I remember that well. It helped me lose weight, actually, back when it came out. Had some motivation to walk around and do something.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to say, so there was this happiness study, been in the headlines this weekend. So this Harvard study was the longest running study on human happiness. It's like totally politically incorrect because it was like a bunch of Harvard white guys from the 30s that they studied their whole life. And they studied some like poor kids from Boston too. And they combined these two studies. And so they were showing that really their conclusion is that strong social bonds are one of the best things for your health. Like can help, if you have strong social bonds, it helps predict not getting diabetes, not having a heart disease, making more money over your lifetime, all these things. And anytime I hear something like that, I'm like, it just confirms how important it is to have people in your life. I just wanted to say, Will, you're one of my longest friends for one of the longest times. And I appreciate you.
Oh, Sam, you getting all mushy on me.
Maybe these podcasts are like going to help me not get diabetes or something.
Man, I wish it could help me with that based off my last doctor's appointment. I need that help.
I need to go. I haven't been in.
Oh, dude.
Been years.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I remember meeting in 10th grade, and I had been just really in need of better friends. And I felt like that year I got to be close with several folks.
Yeah.
But I was so grateful to have you in my English class, and
yeah, man, it's good. It's good stuff.
And, whatever else.
I'd come from the private school down the road, which was I did not fit in there. Let me tell you, man, that was the country club school is not where Sam belonged.
Whew. Well, and it was funny because I'm sure your parents put you there because they assumed that it was like better academically,
and
which was not really the case.
Not in any way. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, that was such a funny thing because I remember you talking about how like you were not good at math and like you were like the best at math and the math class.
I was like, there's something wrong here, man.
Oh, man.
Exactly. Well,
why don't you close us out?
Yeah. So if you have any thoughts on, I don't know, the Megan movie or OpenAI's ChatGPT or anything else we've talked about here.
Rings of Power.
Yeah, Rings of Power. Hit us up. Stuff at tsmpodcast.com. Podcast TSM on all of them socials. Although I guess we're not on Mastodon, no toots, right?
No.
I've thought about getting on that, but I don't do social media anyway, so I don't need to quit Twitter like everyone else because I'm not on Twitter to begin with. Here's our website, tsmpodcast.com. There is a yellow donate button upper left-hand corner if you'd like to help us out, keep the lights on. We'd appreciate it. But if not, we are absolutely happy you're here. And until next time, Tai'Shar Manethrin.